If you're over 50 and your erections are not as strong, as reliable, or as frequent as they used to be, what I'm about to explain may surprise you, because in most cases, the real problem is not age, and it's not low testosterone alone, and it's not that your body is simply shutting down. In my clinical experience working with men over 50 for nearly 2 decades, I've seen a consistent pattern. The decline is often being accelerated, sometimes even caused, by 3 daily mistakes that most men repeat without realizing the damage they're doing. Mistakes that quietly impair blood flow, mistakes that interfere with nitric oxide production, mistakes that blunt hormonal signaling. And the worst part? They're considered normal. Before we go any further, let me clarify something important. Occasional erection changes are not abnormal. But persistent difficulty, weaker rigidity, difficulty maintaining firmness, reduced morning erections, is not something you should automatically accept as just aging. Because physiologically, erection quality is primarily a vascular event, not a willpower event, not a masculinity event, not even primarily a hormonal event. An erection is a blood flow event, and after 50, your vascular system changes in predictable ways. Arteries gradually stiffen, endothelial function declines, nitric oxide production decreases, circulation efficiency drops. But here's the key. Those changes are often accelerated by lifestyle patterns, not caused by time alone. And when those patterns are corrected, I routinely see measurable improvement. Let me explain what's happening biologically. The arteries that supply the penis are extremely small, about 1 to 2 millimeters in diameter. That's significantly smaller than coronary arteries, which means something important. If plaque buildup, inflammation, or endothelial dysfunction begins, those small arteries are affected first. In many cases, erectile dysfunction is an early vascular warning sign. It can precede cardiovascular symptoms by years. This isn't meant to alarm you, it's meant to reframe the issue. When erection quality declines, your body may be signaling impaired circulation, and circulation is influenced daily by your habits. Now here's where most men are misled. They assume, it's just testosterone, or I'm getting older, or I need medication. Medication can absolutely help in certain cases, but medication does not fix the underlying vascular environment. It temporarily increases nitric oxide signaling. It does not rebuild endothelial health. It does not reverse chronic inflammation. It does not improve arterial flexibility long term, and if the daily mistakes continue, the baseline continues declining. I had a 64-year-old patient who came to me frustrated. He was using medication occasionally. It worked, but not consistently. He assumed he just needed a higher dose. When we evaluated his daily routine, we identified 3 specific behaviors that were directly impairing blood flow and hormonal balance. Once we corrected those, his baseline improved. Not overnight, but steadily. That's the difference between symptom management and physiological correction. Now I want to be very clear. After 50, some biological decline is natural. Testosterone gradually decreases, recovery slows, sleep quality changes, but severe decline is rarely inevitable. And in many cases, what's accelerating the issue is self-inflicted, unintentionally. So before I reveal the 3 mistakes, I want you to consider a few questions. Have your morning erections become less frequent? Do you notice firmness is inconsistent? Do you struggle more with maintenance than initiation? Do you feel physically capable, but the response isn't matching the desire? If you answered yes to even one of those, this applies to you. Because what most men don't understand is that erection physiology depends on 3 pillars: healthy blood vessels, sufficient nitric oxide production, proper hormonal signaling. When even one of those pillars is compromised, performance suffers. When 2 are compromised, consistency disappears. When all 3 are affected, dysfunction becomes persistent. And unfortunately, the 3 daily mistakes I'm about to explain directly interfere with those pillars. They don't feel dangerous. They don't cause pain. They don't produce immediate symptoms. But over months and years, They reduce vascular responsiveness. And here's something most men find surprising. The first mistake is often recommended as healthy. The second mistake is considered harmless stress relief. The third mistake is something nearly every man over 50 does without question. In the next section, I'm going to break down the first mistake in detail, and it's likely something you've done today. Once you understand the mechanism behind it, you may look at your routine very differently. Let's begin with mistake number 1, and this one surprises almost everyone. Sleeping less than 6 to 7 hours consistently and dismissing it as normal aging. After 50, sleep architecture changes. You may fall asleep earlier, wake up more easily, experience lighter sleep cycles. But chronic sleep restriction is not harmless. It directly impacts the 3 pillars we discussed: vascular function, nitric oxide production, testosterone regulation. Here's what happens biologically. During deep sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep, the body performs endocrine regulation. Testosterone is primarily produced during sleep. If sleep duration is shortened, testosterone production drops. Not slightly, measurably. Multiple studies show that even 1 week of restricted sleep can reduce daytime testosterone levels by 10 to 15%. Now combine that with natural age-related decline. You're compounding the effect. But that's only one piece. Sleep deprivation also increases cortisol. Elevated cortisol constricts blood vessels, impairs endothelial function, increases inflammation. Inflammation damages the inner lining of blood vessels, the endothelium. The endothelium is responsible for releasing nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is the chemical signal that tells arteries to relax and expand. Without adequate nitric oxide, blood cannot fully fill the erectile chambers, so even if desire is present, the hydraulic response is weakened. This is why many men notice, "I still want intimacy, but my body doesn't respond the same way." It's often not psychological, it's vascular and hormonal. I had a 58-year-old executive who complained of inconsistent erections. He exercised regularly, ate relatively well, was not overweight, but he was sleeping 5 hours per night for years. Once he prioritized 7 to 8 hours consistently, within 3 months, morning erections returned, rigidity improved, energy increased. No medication change, no supplements added, just sleep correction. Because sleep is not passive rest, it is endocrine repair. Now let's move to mistake number 2. This one is extremely common after 50, and many men consider it harmless. Chronic low-level alcohol consumption, especially nightly drinking. Now I am not referring to occasional social drinking. I'm referring to the habit of 1-2 glasses of wine every evening, a few beers most nights, nightly whiskey to relax. Here's what happens physiologically. Alcohol is a vasodilator acutely, meaning it temporarily widens blood vessels. That's why some men feel initially relaxed or flushed. But chronically, alcohol impairs nitric oxide signaling. It increases oxidative stress. It reduces testosterone production over time, and it contributes to visceral fat accumulation, which increases aromatase activity. Aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen. After 50, when testosterone is already declining, this shift matters. Even modest nightly drinking can blunt hormone balance over months and years. There's another issue. Alcohol disrupts sleep architecture. Even if you fall asleep quickly, REM cycles are fragmented, which means mistake number 2 amplifies mistake number 1. Poor sleep, reduced testosterone, impaired vascular repair. I treated a 66-year-old patient who insisted, "I only drink 2 glasses of wine per night. That's healthy." After reducing alcohol to weekends only, his sleep improved. Within 8 weeks. Stronger morning erections, better energy, improved consistency. The body is remarkably responsive when interference is removed. Now notice something. Neither of these first 2 mistakes feel dramatic. They don't feel dangerous. But over time, they quietly suppress vascular responsiveness. And when vascular responsiveness drops below a certain threshold, erections become unreliable, Which brings us to mistake number 3, and this one may be the most damaging of all, because it directly injures the endothelium, the very tissue responsible for erection mechanics. In the next section, I'll explain exactly what that mistake is, and why correcting it may have the fastest impact. Now let's talk about mistake number 3, and this one is extremely common after 50. Living in a chronically sedentary state, even if you exercise occasionally. This is not about whether you go to the gym once or twice a week. This is about what your body is doing for the other 14-15 waking hours of the day. Because vascular health is not built during workouts alone. It's maintained through consistent blood flow stimulation. Here's what happens when you sit for prolonged periods, which many men over 50 do. Blood flow slows. Shear stress on artery walls decreases. Endothelial stimulation drops. Shear stress is important. When blood flows through arteries at healthy velocity, it stimulates the endothelium to produce nitric oxide. Nitric oxide keeps vessels flexible. Flexible vessels expand easily. Rigid vessels do not. When you remain sedentary for hours at a time, sitting at a desk, watching television, driving, you reduce that stimulation. Over time, arteries become less responsive. Less responsive arteries mean weaker dilation. Weaker dilation means reduced filling pressure in the erectile chambers. This is not theoretical. Studies consistently show that prolonged sitting is associated with impaired endothelial function, even in people who exercise intermittently. In other words, one 30-minute workout does not erase 10 hours of sitting. Now add age-related vascular stiffening to that. Add reduced nitric oxide production. Add mild chronic inflammation. The threshold for reliable erections narrows. I had a 62-year-old patient who proudly told me he worked out 3 times per week, but he also sat for nearly 9 hours daily. We implemented something very simple. Standing and walking for 5 minutes every hour, a 20-minute brisk walk daily, light resistance training twice weekly. Within 12 weeks, improved erectile firmness, more frequent spontaneous erections, better energy levels, not because of extreme fitness, because of improved vascular responsiveness. Movement is biochemical signaling. Every time you walk briskly, you increase nitric oxide release, circulation efficiency, insulin sensitivity, testosterone support. Sedentary living quietly erodes all 4. And here's something critical. Erectile dysfunction is often an early marker of systemic vascular decline. The penile arteries are smaller than coronary arteries. If they're underperforming, it may indicate broader endothelial impairment, which means correcting these mistakes isn't just about sexual performance. It's about cardiovascular preservation. Now, let's step back and look at the pattern across all 3 mistakes. Chronic sleep restriction lowers testosterone, increases cortisol, nightly alcohol, disrupts nitric oxide and hormone balance, sedentary lifestyle, reduces endothelial stimulation. All 3 converge on the same endpoint: impaired vascular responsiveness. And vascular responsiveness is the foundation of erection quality. The encouraging part? This is dynamic physiology. Endothelial function can improve. Nitric oxide production can increase. Hormonal balance can partially recover, but only when interference stops. Now I want to address something many men think at this point. Is it too late for me? In most cases, no. I've worked with men in their late 60s and early 70s who saw meaningful improvement after correcting these patterns, not overnight, but progressively. Within 4 to 6 weeks of consistent sleep correction, alcohol reduction, and daily movement. Morning erections often return first. Spontaneous responsiveness increases. Rigidity improves. Morning erections are particularly important. They're a neurological and vascular reflex. If those begin returning, it's often a sign endothelial function is improving. Now in the final section, I'm going to give you a clear, structured correction plan. Simple, practical, sustainable. Because the goal is not intensity, it's consistency. Let's simplify everything into a clear action plan. If erections have become weaker, less consistent, or slower after 50, and you recognize one or more of these mistakes in your life, here's what I recommend clinically. Not extreme measures, not unrealistic protocols, just physiological correction. Step 1. Restore sleep as a hormonal priority. Your target: 7 to 8 hours of consistent, uninterrupted sleep. Practical adjustments. Go to bed at the same time each night. Stop alcohol at least 3 hours before bed. Reduce screen exposure 60 minutes before sleep. Keep your bedroom cool and dark. Within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent sleep correction, testosterone stabilization begins. Within 4 to 6 weeks, many men notice more frequent morning erections, improved energy, better mood stability. Sleep is not optional maintenance, it is endocrine therapy. Step 2. Reduce alcohol to strategic, not habitual. If you drink nightly, reduce it. Ideally, limit alcohol to 1 to 2 times per week. Avoid drinking close to bedtime. Hydrate adequately. This reduces cortisol spikes, estrogen conversion, endothelial oxidative stress. Many men report noticeable improvement within 6 to 8 weeks of reducing nightly alcohol. And often, they didn't realize how much it was suppressing recovery until they removed it. Step 3. Interrupt sedentary physiology. You do not need extreme workouts. You need vascular stimulation. Start with 20-30 minutes of brisk walking daily. Stand and move for 5 minutes every hour. Light resistance training twice weekly. Walking alone significantly increases nitric oxide production. Resistance training supports testosterone signaling. Consistency matters more than intensity. Within 8 to 12 weeks, endothelial responsiveness can measurably improve. That improvement translates directly into erection quality. Now let me set realistic expectations. If you've been sedentary, sleep-deprived, and drinking nightly for years, correction takes time. You may not see dramatic change in 7 days. But here's the typical progression I observe. Weeks 2 to 4. Improved sleep depth. Better energy in the morning. Weeks 4, 8. Return of spontaneous or morning erections. Increased rigidity, consistency. Weeks 8, 12. Stronger, more reliable performance. Greater endurance. This is not magic. It's vascular biology responding to improved conditions. Now I want to emphasize something important. If erectile changes are severe, sudden, or accompanied by chest pain, shortness of breath, or other cardiovascular symptoms, seek medical evaluation. Erectile dysfunction can be an early vascular signal, and that signal should not be ignored. But in the absence of severe pathology, lifestyle correction often produces meaningful improvement. The key message here is this: after 50, erections are less forgiving of poor habits, but they are not beyond recovery. The penile arteries are small, which means they're sensitive to inflammation, sensitive to circulation, sensitive to hormonal balance. But that sensitivity works both ways. When you improve vascular health, you often see improvement there first. Now I'd like to ask you something. Of the 3 mistakes we discussed, sleep deprivation, nightly alcohol, chronic sitting, which one do you think is affecting you most? Let me know in the comments. And if this video helped you understand what's happening in your body at a deeper level, consider subscribing. On this channel, I focus on men's health after 50, with physiology-based explanations, not quick fixes. Because real improvement starts with understanding, and understanding removes fear. You are not broken, you are responding to inputs. Change the inputs, and the physiology often follows. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.